Good morning, all. This is Jack from Charting the Markets, and this is the pre-market webinar for the morning of Friday, the 23rd of January. My disclaimer: I do this for educational purposes only. I'm here to share my technical analysis with you. I hope you can take some of what I'm doing and learn from it, transfer it to your own charts, and I'm not here to issue trading signals. This is a video for paying subscribers at chartingthemarkets.substack.com. It's published on YouTube after a delay of 24 hours. Okay, right. We have looking at the ES, no current divergence. We've got an IHS. Hey, Doug. We've got an IHS which is broken up with a target in the 7,003 area, I think. Yes. That hasn't made target yet, and I'm wondering if it's going to, but I'll talk more about that on the daily chart. Looking at NQ, had a double bottom here, kind of break up, but I didn't mark it in. At the moment, we're stalled at the weekly pivot, and it may be that we're going to be stalled. Well, both ES and NQ, or at least SPX and QQQ, are stalled currently at the daily middle band, and it may be they're going to reverse there and do some more downside before we get more upside. Looking at RTY, this has gone higher. Frankly, this barely retraced when we were retracing, so looking pretty good to the upside at the moment, but I'm wondering if we might be seeing SPX and Qs leading some more downside, which should pull this down a bit too. YM hasn't quite made it back up to the retest of this high. Technically, this means this double top could still play out. I'm a bit doubtful about that. When you get that back this close to the high, it doesn't usually happen that way, but it is a possibility, and I'm wondering about it. Looking at DAX, decent little rally here, no really obvious reversal pattern. ESTX, the same. Could this be an IHS on ESTX? I think it is too large, so no. All right, let's have a look at the bigger picture on the on these charts. And hang on, sorry, wait a second, wrong one. Okay, let's have a look at the ES charts, which basically went up and tested the daily middle band. Daily middle band closed yesterday at 69.55, and it closed 10 below it. But on SPX, it closed on it, and actually, quite spookily, it was almost precisely on it also on the Qs. Here, it closed at 69.13.35 with the daily middle band at 69.13.56. Technically, that's a close below, but I would view that as a close on. But a close on effectively is a continuation of the previous close, so that would effectively be the daily middle band has held as resistance. In terms of the Qs chart, we did the same. Qs, we had the close yesterday was at 420.76, and the daily middle band was at 620.57, so it was a few ticks above, but really that's a close on as well. So I'm not seeing the daily middle band is broken on either of those. That means that unless that changes today, we may well see some more downside. So watching out for that. In terms of the shorter terms, on the hourly chart, not a lot to see on SPX. On the 15-minute chart, still not a lot to see. We had a 15-minute sell signal yesterday afternoon on the RSI 5. That's already made target. Nothing is open. Could we be forming a little head and shoulders? Potentially, yeah, but nothing particularly compelling. Looking at the hourly chart, not a lot to see on the hourly RSI 14, but we do actually have an RSI 5 sell signal fixed on the Qs, which is weak. We've also got a weak RSI 14. Nope, it didn't quite retest that high. In that case, have I got that wrong or not? I don't think we got the divergence because we didn't retest the high. So in fact, neither of these are signals. Fair enough. All right, looking at Dia. Dia, we broke hard below the daily middle band on Tuesday. We broke back above on Wednesday, and we had another confirming close above yesterday. The high yesterday was at 496.01. And that was very, very close to a retest of the prior high, but not quite. So it didn't make a new all-time high. We're still on an hourly RSI 14 buy signal. That's not reached the possible near miss target, and that leans bullish. On the 15-minute chart, not a lot to see. No divergence here. We had a bit of divergence and got an RSI 5 sell signal on the 15-minute, but that's already made target. Okay, let's have a look at IWM. And bear with me a moment. All right, IWM on the daily chart, and this has basically been powering up throughout. We only got halfway back to the daily middle band, whereas we got breaks below on all three of the others. This could technically be an overthrow of this trend line here, but I'm thinking we're probably heading up to one or the other of these. I've got the first one currently in 272.5 area and the other one at about 276. I think we're heading to one or the other. We shall see. All right, looking at the hourly chart, still on an RSI 14 sell signal. On the hourly and the 15-minute chart, no current divergence. Are we looking at any possible top and patterns here, apart from part-formed head and shoulders? No, not really. Looking at DAX, we saw a close again, pretty much on, marginally below, but pretty much on the daily middle band yesterday. I have to say, I don't want to make you think that I'm making too much of it, but I have to say, generally speaking, when you see that, it's an ominous sign. Now, sometimes you see a break back up, but probably 2/3 of the time, you do go and see some more downside before you see the break up. So I'm watching these closes on the middle band from below, and I'm thinking that may well deliver some more downside. I'm looking at Nikkei. Nikkei, we back tested the daily middle band, nice rally from it. Next obvious target is retest this high here at 54.5. Doesn't necessarily need to be immediate, but usually would be. Okay, let's have a look at DX. Now DX, we've come back and we've almost retested this low. We have still got a double top, which is broken down with a target in the 97.53 to 97.61 area. And I'm still thinking that may well make target. All of this, I mean, the Greenland stuff's all been resolved now and so on, but these things leave a lingering smell. They leave a lingering lack of trust, side eyes, and a desire to become less closely associated with the US. After these things, tariffs, etc. The more this happens, the more people will view the US as an unreliable trading partner and ally. So I'm thinking we're already seeing some European institutions divesting. Trump was making blood-curdling threats about that, but to be honest, if you could get people to buy your stuff by yelling at them, then I think the commercial world around us would look very different today. But the fact is that as a sales technique, that doesn't tend to work terribly well. And the idea that actually any of these things would matter to, let's say, pension funds in Europe, which are just de-risking by diversifying away from the US, the idea that they'd be impacted by this is pretty ridiculous. So I don't think that makes a difference. I think the lack of trust really matters. I think this is really where it's showing Trump's business career, because his business career, he'd screw over contractors. He was never working with anybody. He didn't really have any partners, or if he did, he just screwed them, and that was the end of it. But I mean, he didn't really have any friends in business, so it was all about him and how he was dealing with individuals. And I think we're seeing a lot of that in his style of foreign policy. And equally, I think he did a lot of bullying in his business, and we're seeing a lot of that too. So these things don't tend to encourage people to deal with you. So I'm thinking that we're going to be seeing a building, and we're already seeing it from Canada. Canada's been making new partnerships everywhere and just pivoting away from the US. The rest of them may not be openly doing that, but they're thinking about it and making steps and just distancing themselves a bit. That will have an impact in due course. All right, looking at DX, I'm leaning more towards the downside here. Euro, the obvious next move, but there's no pattern for it, would be a retest of this high. GBP/USD is heading back up into a retest of the high. These things have the dollar lower, and we're pretty close. I was saying this would probably reject, and it has. USD/JPY, this looks like a bull flag, but that would lean bullish, but it could be a double top possibly. USD CAD, we had a double top which broke down, but that's already made target now. Australian dollar and NZ are both powering up, and neither of these has a huge impact on the dollar, but they're both for what they are worth bearish for the dollar. I'm quite liking the downside on the dollar. ZB, we've been seeing a bit of a rally. We're coming back into the test of the weekly pivot and the monthly pivot. I'm still leaning bearish. Big patterns are pointing down. Not seeing anything to suggest really that we're seeing a change on the big picture there. And to be honest, the more Trump pisses off everyone who owns US treasuries, which is pretty much everyone else, the less demand there is likely to be for them. All right, CL. CL We've got a double top here, but I'm not taking it seriously because it really almost failed. We are just having a very, very choppy time getting up to the obvious target, which would be a retest of this high here in the 62.05 area. No current negative divergence. HO, this is actually a very nice rising channel. Watching that with interest. Next obvious target within the channel would be a test of channel support. Looking at RBOB, we went back up, retested this high. We do have a potential double top setting up here. Not showing any signs of doing more than being a potential here. NG, I was reading that the reason the NG has gone up is because of unseasonably cold temperatures in the US. I struggle to think that is the reason for this, frankly, historic-looking move. I think some fund had trouble. And had to liquidate a load of positions in a short time. So maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. But for what it's worth, it is forming a possible head and shoulders here, but I think it's more likely we're going to see a retest this high. And as I said, now that we've got back up to these levels, I've still got targets in the 6.1, 6.2 area. And I'm thinking we may well be heading for those next. All right, let's have a look at GC. GC continuing higher slowly. SI has got up to basically the test of 100, which is what I was talking about the other day. Might find some resistance there, but at the moment not seeing any obvious sign of it. We do have a possible 60-minute sell signal brewing here, which we didn't have when I was looking at it earlier. Palladium has now reached this target, which I was saying I'd like to see reached and should see reached. Now I'm wondering if it's got the juice to get up to the retest of this high here at about the 2130 area. I would like to see that. Possible 60-minute sell signal brewing here too. Platinum. Possible 60-minute sell signal brewing. Obviously, we've gone higher and significantly so we will see how that goes. But I'm liking. Oh, by the way, I was mentioning to you about the futures and how they've been playing silly buggers with my prices, and I showed you that the arrow here, which I have not moved, showed the matched the original high, which we were not seeing. That original high is now back today. You can see that's now exactly the same level as that. I've just had to move this trend line, which I had moved. Kind of annoying, really, but it is where it is. But hopefully there will be less messing around. I do know they've been doing a lot of upgrading in the background, so presumably it's an artifact of that. But it's nice to have the old prices back. Hopefully that'll be the case and it'll stay that way. Possible 60-minute sell signal brewing. HG, we've got a very nice looking potential level top, but it hasn't broken down yet. And we've seen a 50-back rally from there, waiting to see what happens here. But I'm thinking we might come back and break down from that. Looking at a KC, seeing a bit of a rally, still thinking we're going to retest this low here at about the 338 area. Looking at SB, still looks like a bear flag forming. CC still looks as though it's going down. And we've got a possible 60-minute buy signal brewing now. CT, leaning towards the downside here. We've got back into the retest of this low. I'm wondering whether we're going to do the full rejection back into the retest of this low here in about the 62.95 area. Lumber, seen a bit of a retrace. Not convinced this is failing here yet, but in the bigger picture, we are in a downtrend. 60-minute sell signal has reached possible near miss target. ZW, trying to get back over the monthly pivot. Keeping an open mind. Right now, this is looking more like a triangle forming or just trading sideways. So if that is the case, that would probably resolve into a retest of the low in due course. On corn, possible bear flag forming. On soy, trying to break up from this double bottom with a target in the 1104 area. ZL didn't have a pattern, but broke up anyway. This has done higher highs over the highs in November and December, and it's continuing up at the moment. I've got another possible 60-minute sell signal brewing here. On live cattle, we have broken down from a double top, but it's done essentially absolutely nothing since then. So waiting to see which way it's going to go. HE, we've got a beautiful rising channel here, and at the moment that is still holding. So waiting to see if that will. We've got a weak 60-minute sell signal fixed, and we've got a possible full 60-minute sell signal brewing. All right, great. Let's have a quick look at questions, of which we have none. Well, my pleasure. Everyone have a great weekend, and I'll catch you guys again on Monday. All right, cheers.